Okay, welcome to our post-draft pre-spring training analysis of each and every team this year. Along on my left, we have Mr. Soul Towel. To my right, the league historian, Sandy Shallow. Every 30 minutes, why myself powered by DSN. Okay, we have the Arizona Diamondbacks, known as the Snakes, led by JT. This team is very, very interesting, guys. JT started by trading down, and he basically traded away from a perfect fit of Gabe Abadi. He had him, all the mocks had him going there. JT traded that 11th pick, I believe it was, dropped down to 14, and ended up going Lee Zaccaria at that 14 spot, which really sent shockwaves Wednesday night. It's a weird marriage, Lee Z and JT. Never seen them in the same room together even. I'm not sure where it came from. I know Lee's best friends with SNT, but not JT. I don't see where the connection is.
I scratched my head at a lot of what went on with this team. I think they went in a lot of different directions throughout the draft. I think this team is to say they're gonna lack for chemistry might be kind right now. Just my prediction. I just see a collection of guys that don't really go together.
But let's talk about it. And so
in one unit, I know you have a few guys with their guys, and I scratched my head at a lot of this.
Okay, so Saul, JT went back to the well and drafted his boy Jordy as his first inaugural move on Sunday morning.
Well, so you're saying he basically traded Gabe to get Jordy, knowing he's not going to take him. He wants his guy, so let me trade away from that spot and get the guy I want a little later.
You might say.
I think JT was given credit for being some sort of draft genius and was making all these trades because he has drafted very well. I thought last year in Philadelphia, he drafted the best team he possibly could have drafted. I loved what he did there. I think maybe it got to his head a little bit. That ended up blowing up because there was just no leader, and it was just mayhem in that town.
Yeah.
The team,
they had no choice but to make the playoffs because of the team they had, but you saw once they got there,
they didn't show up. So the city of Philadelphia and the mayor escorted JT out of Philly, and he wound up in Arizona where he found the perfect opening. He brought his friend Jordy with him.
Okay.
He drafted Joe Chira pretty early after a down year from Mean Machine. He's putting Joe Chira in left. But with Lee Z in the mix, all of a sudden you get this other flavor of guy.
Yeah.
You get David D.C. Cohen at third. You get Charles Saka, an associate of Lee, at short center out of position. Now, and then you get Jeffrey Saka on the mound. You have two different teams on one team.
Well, Lee claims that JT was going for Jeff. Lee claims that wasn't his pick. Now, again, we documented it very well at the draft. Before Lee arrived, you had JT, Jordy, Joe Chira.
Yes.
Lee arrived, you have DC, best friend of, nephew of his best friend.
Yes.
You had Charles Saka, employee. Jeff Saka, one of his closest friends. Those were the next picks. So that's what you mean. Yeah, that's what it seemed like. You were getting two different guys.
So you're suggesting JT took his team, and then Lee showed up and took his team.
And then they emerged, and then, just to add fuel to the fire, they drafted Mo Harari, and who doesn't go with either of these two teams, just to add more gas and mayhem onto this team.
I mean,
and
listen,
Jeffrey's not the easiest to work with on the mound either. So
I think a lot's going on in this team. Is there talent among the group?
A ton of
talent. We're not questioning that. I just think this is going to be a very, very, very volatile situation. I think this is one of those teams where if they get swept week one, all hell could break loose. I mean, I see a lot going on here that, isn't conducive to a ball club.
On the other hand, to be fair, if this team gets out to a 3-1 start before Passover, let's say, and Joe Chira looks like the Joe Chira from 5 years ago.
That's a big thing, though.
And Jordy's happy because he's back to shortstop where he was on Baltimore. And JT is, making diving catches in center. Don't sleep on this guy. A.B. Dweck taken late. I don't know much about Albert Mino. Maybe he has a position in the outfield. I'm not sure.
Look, I think when you take a look at every team, there's a lot of parity in the league. There's not a team really. There's a pitcher that stands out or two, but there's not a team that you could say, oh, talent-wise, this team is head and shoulders above the rest. Everybody has talent. Every team has their guys that can play well. A big part of the YMSL is how the guys play together. Last year, you saw it in the White Walkers. These guys were really a family at the end of the year. You said it. JT drafted a better team than the White Walkers.
I think he did, believe it or not.
But it just didn't come together. And and they weren't even a factor in the playoffs. So, and now a team like the White Walkers, we always talk about the Expos to nauseam because that's our team and we're the broadcasters, so you got to live with it. But that team, look at that team. It wasn't the most talented team. So sometimes you have to go beyond that. And I think the team that wins this year is going to have some type of chemistry, some type of togetherness.
Now let me ask you this, because I have a question for you.
That right now.
As sitting here in March, no, I don't see it.
Okay, here's the thing with the White Walkers, because they had some personalities on that team also. John Eleazar, Joe Greenberg.
Yeah, they did.
Mo Cass himself, Eddie Rishti.
But they all bought in and
hammering in. But they didn't get along all year. They had infighting on that team, and that happens when you're in a locker room, you're traveling, long road trips, those 10-day road trips, remember, in Montreal.
They're tough. Especially on the West Coast.
But they had a guy like a Raw Dog, for instance. The Expos had a lot of leaders, but they had a loud guy like Amoni, for instance. The Orioles had Dano as the captain, but also the guy that's going to take care of the infighting and get everybody together. Who's that guy on this team?
I don't know.
And Saul, you played for JT. What do you think he's thinking?
I want to say Lee. I mean, but Lee, Lee's a guy that goes and does his job. He's a professional. He's a great player. He's a positive guy for sure. Is he the most vocal guy? He's not. He's not the most vocal guy.
I think what JT is thinking here is we like to focus on the broadcast about chemistry and friends and all that. I think he's saying, to heck with that.
Okay, good for him. He's welcome
to that. He's saying, I just want to take a team that's defensively pretty stout.
He's welcome to that. But then you're going to tell me that he did pick his friends.
He picked some of his friends, but not. Then he stopped, and then Lee picked his friends. Is the way I see it.
Yeah, I don't know. Look, it might work out.
It could come together. It's not your March 1st team.
No, it's not a team that you look at and say this team stinks. They're not. They're good. There's players. They're a good team. They're talented. I just don't see it all coming together.
Okay, let's look at the bright side for a second. DC at third, Jordy at short, Charles Saka at short center could be a huge benefit. And then you have Lee at second is a perennial Gold Glove coming off a down year last year. He didn't feel well last year. He'll feel better this year. And then you have JT, Joe Chira in the outfield. A.B. Dweck in right, one of my favorite players because he'll make a diving stop and then he'll miss a fly ball like just in the course of an inning. It could go. Of course it could. It could go well.
Each guy is talented. Of course it could go well.
My gut is that if JT doesn't make a trade by Passover, something to mix this up, he does have an extra third baseman. He has pieces to trade.
I think so too.
I think if he doesn't make a move, it's not going to go so well.
I think a move is coming. And again, it's not a knock on the guys. I just think collectively it's going to be rough. It might be a long season.
I just don't see JT. You played for him. I don't see him vocal enough.
I just want to answer.
Get this
together.
together.
Jumped at moving Charles to short center. What do you think? You think that's a potential switch between Charles and DC, or are you assuming DC is automatically?
Listen, I think DC is given the job day one. I think if DC struggles week one, he's getting bumped.
By the way, DC at short center could be great also because he's long and he's tall.
Could be great. But here's the difference. I don't see JT having the patience that a Max Sutton has. Max Sutton will say, all right, I split this week. We didn't sweep. We could have swept if we did this, that, or that. And he'll move on to next week. I don't see that with JT. I could see DC struggling out of the box. Let's say he struggles out of the box.
Right.
I could see a move being made. Then week 4, I could see Charles struggling 1 week. A move being made again. I don't see a steady hand there, really. JT without Dano has not had success in this league. And Jeffrey Saka, unfortunately for him, I think he was drafted onto a bad team last year. I think he was drafted onto a very challenging team this year.
I think for Jeffrey, I was going to say the same thing. I don't say that he's drafted on a bad team because he's not.
He's not.
But he's drafted on a team that I don't know how well he's going to fit with.
Last year was a bad team,
Yeah,
and
that
he
was-
pitched 14 innings of shutout ball that day to
yeah.
full. Although
Yeah.
they were 5-9, but this year I just don't see the talented pieces coming together and forming a unit. I don't see
That's
it.
why we're here doing this and not playing.
Right.
They could prove us wrong.
It's a challenge to them.
And it is what it is. It's me sitting here talking about it. I mean, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
But at the end of the day, that's the way I see it right now today. I think there will be moves, though. I don't think he's going to war with this exact team.
Saul?
I agree. I think a move is obviously coming. I think he has to get rid of one third baseman. There's too many
Which
apples
one?
in the basket.
Which one gets the most value back?
Good question.
Probably DC.
I'd say DC only because he brings a little bit more with the bat.
Why draft 2 third basemen?
But Norman, I will say, like we analyzed with a few other teams, with DX
Yep.
and with swimming, both with non-proven third baseman. So the market, if JT holds on, the market could open up for third baseman.
There's a couple
and he
teams
could
with multiple third
He
basemen.
could, in theory, get a very big return.
So that answers my question. I was just going to ask, why draft 2 third basemen? You're saying he has what other teams need.
It could be.
We'll see. All right, we'll see how it
See what
goes.
happens.
Challenges out to Arizona. Good luck.